Jared, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring in our three-way dance here with Willie P. So filibuster while I'm typing. So you get the first question, Jarrett, with Willie P.
Okay. Well, oh, God, have to throw it at me, John. That's fine. Hey, Willie.
What's going on, Jared? How are you? Hi, Johnny.
What's up, dude?
I'm
Good to
doing
see you
okay.
guys.
Good to be
You
seen.
as well. First off, how are you recovering after whatever the hell Saturday night was? Because I've been critical of a lot of like the lead up to the playoffs where I felt like Charlotte left so many points on the table, and I felt like if they didn't get in, this was going to be on them for the points they've left on the table. But Saturday night was, dude, that was special, man.
Well, you've asked me how I'm recovering. I haven't slept since Friday, so
That's not good.
and every time I say that, times this morning, and it's not a lie. Like literally, last 2 nights, I've literally the last 3 nights, I've probably woke up around 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and just whether it's anxiety, euphoria, deliriousness, anticipation, all those emotions. Saturday was different. I'll just say it hit different. It felt very much like the first game we ever had in March of last year, but it had almost that little extra sauce to it because not only did you have the stakes of the playoffs on there, but you also had the messy component. And I knew it was going to be interesting when the way that we drive into the stadium, there's really only one way in for where we park. We drive past, I don't know how well you guys know the city. We drive past the baseball stadium, and the first 6 shirts that I see are pink. And I'm sitting there. I look at my wife, and she's like, "Will, there's going to be a lot of Messi fans." And I said, "Yep, more than I probably thought there were going to be." But I will say the Charlotte fans turned up too as well. I would say still maybe about 55-45 for Charlotte in the stands, but there was still plenty of Messi fans there. They were heard. There were tears, which I liked. But I just feel like so many ebbs and flows. The last person who I talked to, I mean, I've been getting the question leading up to the game almost just nauseatingly so many times. We were like, is Messi going to play? Are you going to win? What's going to happen? And the last person I told before I walked into the booth, I said, we're going to get a goal early and we're going to shut him out. And Messi's going to play. And right before that, or right after that, is when they made the announcement with the lineup that said Messi starting. And I look on my Twitter and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, really?" Like, so there's that. And then Vargas gets the early goal, and off we go. And they played some very good organized defense. I give them a lot of credit. I think Twellman on the TV copy was saying they played a lot more man than he was expecting. And I think, honestly, they needed to, given the way Wednesday went, because I think the zonal marking, for whatever reason, didn't work. It allowed the 2 guys to split the 2 defenders on the 2 goals we conceded. And I was impressed with the way that they came back off of that mat and really got themselves a resilient victory. It was very hairy at times. Kalina needed to be a god in goal and stand on his head a couple of times. He had the fingertip save. He had the one off the bar, which I still don't know how the hell that one didn't go in. But so many different things had to go right for Charlotte FC to win that game. A lot of them created by their own by their own fortune, and also I think we definitely had an extra defender. And I even said that in the end of the match. I couldn't help but think of Anton in that moment. His daughter came out in a lead up as well. And I even said, I think we had a 12th defender out there with Anton Walks helping us out, getting us over the hump. It was real great to see a lot of the Charlotte soccer OGs in the aftermath too. People who were there way before I was, and really trying to help and champion the cause. People who are rooting for teams like Stumptown and the Carolina Lightning, and obviously the Independents before them. It's real great to see not only the Charlotte community come together from a soccer aspect, but also to see the people who are, the Johnny come latelys, which we welcome all bandwagoners. We're the bandwagon is open, and we give no judgment. You don't need to know offside from the backside. Let's get it going and let's make something happen here in this city, which is real great to see.
All right, so I'm going to play it. I have it. I have the recording as it was released on the 280 character app. And this is the mashup montage closed up 2-minute version that was released on various forms. This was how the match ended with you and Jess on WFNZ, plus the moment when you found out you were in. And I'm going to play it for everybody who might not have heard it. So like I said, it's about 2 minutes, but it's worth your time. Once again, courtesy of our friends like Willie P and Jess. Here we go.
See Westwood looking at Diahare. Diahare saying, let's go to the corner, man.
And goes to the corner to Diahare. Diahare played on it by Robinson and Busquets. And they're going to play it for a corner. And that's it! The crowd belongs to Charlotte. And Charlotte FC, if the results hold, have clinched its first playoff berth in club history.
History is in the making at Bank of America Stadium. Nails are being bitten. Scoreboards are being watched. Everybody is waiting for the moment of confirmation to give these players what they deserve. This was the definition of commitment from the crowd. This was the definition of a never say die attitude. This side has been counted out time and time and time again, but they never laid down and accepted when people doubted them. They rose to the occasion and tackled business from Bank of America Stadium and are emphatic in victory with the 1-0 scoreline. The clean sheet, the battle, the goal.
We have won. New York City 1-0. That game has gone final. Nashville and Red Bulls are currently in the 92nd minute.
I've just got to share, Minty is grabbing a heron by the throat right now. A little subtle dig into Miami as we wait for number 2.
Still New York with the possession. Halfway home at stoppage time. And that's it! It's over!
It's done!
Charlotte FC is going to the playoffs! Charlotte FC is going to the playoffs! Columbus Crew beat Montreal, and we are headed for soccer on Wednesday night!
History in the making. This is what dreams are made of. Charlotte FC lives to fight another day. Can't wait to be back on Wednesday.
So how does that feel, brother?
So it's so weird because, you know, we've had so many unfortunate situations happen over the course of this year. I don't need to repeat for people who are Charlotte FC fans, 25 drop points from winning positions and 9 goals conceded that changed results from the 81st minute on, including 6 that took place in stoppage time. The issues from the defensive standpoint have been well chronicled, and I think a lot of that's due to, you know, maybe some mistimed aggressiveness a lot of times, but I also feel like it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy after a while. If you give up a couple of those results, the mental part of the game works against you in that fashion. And so for them to conquer that hurdle on Saturday, I think goes a long, long way in helping them not only on Wednesday, but also in the future for those who play beyond this season. And I think, too, the head coach got a lot of criticism as a result of that, but I feel like sometimes it's misfired from a lot of people. I think that a lot of times he's made the right subs, and the guys he's put in have just not done the job. And there are times where, you know, the coach takes the brunt of the criticism for that, and he rightfully does so. But I think he hit every mark that he could on Saturday with the moves that he made. He didn't go to the back 5 too quickly. I think they made that sub for Derek Jones in like the 89th minute. And there was only 3 minutes of stoppage time. That was the biggest surprise for me, is that there were only 3 minutes of stoppage time. I thought for sure we were headed for a double-digit number, not for anything else other than the fact that Messi's sitting out there. Not to be the conspiracy theorist, but the fact that they really didn't control things once that hit like the 91st, 92nd minute after the Kalina fingertip save in the one corner. The fact that they were able to get the ball in the positive side of the field and go right to the corner flag, draw a foul, and basically keep Miami away from the opposition net. And then the thing that's just so uniquely football, uniquely soccer, the thrill of decision day and having the just run right to the phone. Both Jess and I were looking at our phones. I had I set up before the game the SofaScore app.
Yep.
And I basically put the notifications on our game and those 3 games. And so I'm waiting on those, but then I'm also watching MLS 360 on the phone. So I'm getting like, I'm almost kind of getting like double.
How many devices did you have in the booth?
I had like that. I had the iPad with the live stats. I had my computer. Like I was overloaded. It was, I looked like you've seen the Charlie Day meme from Always Sunny, where he's sitting there being like, okay, you know, how do we get this together? And basically, I'm watching Luquinhas take the penalty kick for Red Bulls, and then I see the push notification come down that the Montreal Columbus game's gone final, and I'm thinking, that's it, we got the 2. I don't care what Luquinhas does.
Save your pipes. You got Wednesday. You don't have to go all the way. It's just,
but it was good. It was so cool, and I'm that was the coolest moment, and I feel like we as broadcasters, we always visualize those moments. I mean, I've called state championship games and you know, playoff runs and other sports, but this one was incredibly special, and I know that there are a lot of people who follow this team who bleed for them, and to be able to deliver on that moment, and I love Jess's WWE promo. I mean, that was really, really cool, as literally Sir Minty is giving the people's elbow to the stuffed animal heron on the pitch. Was really, really cool. It was awesome, and I love it. She even said after me, she's like, "Are you okay that I kind of went WWE diva there?" I was like, "Go ahead, it's fine." I loved it, and it was real great.
Drop that elbow, McMahon, and make sure that you make contact with that bird.
It was good. It was very good.
Hutch is asking about the heron, and it's because the heron is their mascot. It looks like a flamingo, but technically it's a heron. Hutch,
right?
Jarrett, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess now that we're like staring into the future of a one-off wild card game, Thunderdome, 2 teams that are 1 team leave kind of thing. For those of us that haven't watched Charlotte all year and what they've become, who's someone kind of off the board to keep an eye on that roster who could make a huge difference?
Well, I think the real change for Charlotte FC happened when they added Yera Orinen. They were devoid of a quality left back since really their inception. Yeah. And I think they've had to kind of piecemeal it together. They did it originally at the start with Joseph Mora, who I think did adequate jobs at times, but wasn't necessarily as good going forward. They put Nathan Byrne in that spot and moved Jalen Lindsay into the right back, but I think there were, again, some issues defensively with Jalen that unfortunately crept up in a couple of contests, including on last Wednesday night when you didn't have Yera available for international duty. So that has put Charlotte FC's defense in a much different position now with Orinen in there. He can pinch in as well, deliver some great service. I think he's a player that you don't hear often about, but he does a very tidy job. He was the one who was basically on Messi's side the entire game, and I honestly think they kept him as quiet as anybody did in a game where he played 90 minutes. I know that he had a couple of set-piece opportunities, but he wasn't really able to create, and he was hounded the entire game. I think Brant Bronico gets definitely a nod as well, because he was very much all over Messi and had him in his back pocket the whole game. But Orinen just allows them to do so much more on defense. It allows Andrew Privet to play up and join the rush from the center back position. That's something that they've been doing all season, at least in the second half of the season with him. They tried to do it with Derek Jones in the early part of the season, but they found Privet actually is somebody who, from a midfielder standpoint, kind of joins that rush very naturally for them, and they kind of set back almost kind of in a back 3 when they're playing on offense, and Privet joins the midfield in that way, almost kind of like a 3-3-2-2 scenario. And I also feel like the fact that you've been able to get, they only had guys 10 games out of 41 in all competitions where they had all 3 DPs on the field together because of injury, international duty, and just also bad form. I mean, Josviak got hurt in the Atlanta game. We didn't see him for a while, and when he came back, he didn't really look like himself. Enzo took a couple of knocks around the Leagues Cup, didn't play in the entire Leagues Cup tournament. Swiderski's had to miss a couple of games and play out of a couple of because of international duty. So it's been kind of put together on the fly, so to speak. Even a guy like Breck Diahare, who came in also in the summer transfer window, who I think looked good early and also got himself a goal. Unfortunate penalty mistake against Nashville really kind of doomed the narrative when it came to him, but he's back now and offering support off the bench. Mentioned Derek Jones as well, somebody who I feel like is a great super sub to help things from that perspective. And I think the other part of this is that, the game on Wednesday, we know Red Bulls are going to be very physical, and they love to win the ball in the air. That's not necessarily Charlotte FC's game, but I think they're good at being able to counter that and get the ball on the ground, because if you try to get the ball on the ground against Red Bulls, you try to get them to possess, they're not comfortable with it. They're very much more of a direct team. They try to play you long. And I think Charlotte FC offers the perfect counter to that. They've played some real intense matchups with Red Bulls. We played them in the round of 16 Open Cup last year. Unfortunately, lost that game. I think we had some squad rotation issues in that particular contest. It was also near the end of the Miguel Angel Ramirez tenure, too. So there were other factors at play involved there. But then Latanzio got his first ever win against Red Bulls a year ago, and you saw a lot of resilience from that squad as well. There was a play with Patrick Klimala in that contest where he took out Christian Kalina in that one that I think also has kind of fueled a little bit to the rivalry with these two teams. And I almost think of Red Bulls the way that Atlanta fans do. Not a natural rivalry, but important games against a squad can cause enmity. And I think just having this part added to the chapter that we've already had, it'll be the sixth time we've played them in 2 seasons. In all competitions, it makes for a very enticing matchup on Wednesday.
Will Palaszczuk, play-by-play for Charlotte FC at Willie P Style, i.e. Willie P Style, on the 280-character app, hanging out with us here, breaking down history in Charlotte as they get ready for Thunderdome coming up in the midweek against a team that believes the ball has cooties. And they don't want no part of it. And just for the record, Diahare needs more consonants in his name.
I can give him some. I got 7. So
yeah, see, but you got good Scrabble points though.
Yeah,
you don't want to see that.
36, by the way, is Palaszczuk. 36.
Nice. So you got to figure out where you can put the Z and get your 10 and all that kind of stuff.
You got to make the double word score, double letter score, or triple letter score work there.
I know how this works. But I mean, when you look at Red Bulls, legitimately, you mentioned physicality. They don't want the ball. They literally, it's hoof it, and then they'll go chase. And what they want to do is they want to create short fields, pressure, transition, 20, 25 yards out, get a turnover, bang, be clinical with their opportunities. I mean, and that puts a lot of pressure on the back line for Charlotte here, and it's been something that has been had. I think that's got to be like a past, present participle. You've had to piece together that back line to come up with that combination that seems to work. How long did it take this back line to get on the same page coming from all these different places?
It's literally been in the last month, John. I think Jess had the stat. I don't know how many, but it's in the double digits of how many different back lines that Charlotte FC has had to play through 41 competitions due to injury. We had a unfortunate just epidemic of center back injuries earlier in the season. Of course, we had projected to have Anton back there with Malanda. Those were the two that were up there, and his unfortunate passing put Charlotte FC in a bit of a bind to try and get somebody in there quickly. They put and plucked Bill Tuiloma from Portland. That had some good moments, but not necessarily totally fruitful. I think that, Latanzio views him more as more of an outside defender. That's what he plays in New Zealand. So it's a scenario where they didn't necessarily line those two up. And then he just started experimenting. They had Soboczinski back there for a little bit. Doesn't necessarily like the characteristics, does Latanzio, of Soboczinski in his particular system. Guzman Carujo joined us back again mid-season. Same kind of deal. They like the ability for the center back to push forward, and Carujo is kind of more of an old school center back, so he's not necessarily apt to want to push forward, and as a result, that made him kind of fall out of favor in Latanzio's system. And then they literally put Privet in. I think it was against Montreal early on in the season, and it was very much a last-ditch scenario where they put him in, making his first MLS start. He was a third-round pick out of Penn State, and we're sitting there being like, neither Jess nor I could have seen this coming, but lo and behold, Crown Legacy really helped kind of nurture that because he was playing that position, and we got a little bit of that advanced intel right before the match. I said, look, he's been playing this under Jose Tavares' squad that won the Eastern Conference, and they'd been kind of preparing for this and putting him in that role. And we got a chance to talk to him right afterwards, and he's like, look, it seemed kind of foreign to me at the beginning, but, as I kept doing it at Legacy, he really grew and kind of understood what the role is like. And that's honestly the second reserve team really becoming a boon for the Charlotte FC side, because you not only have Privet, but you had Brandon Cambridge, who you think about the way the season's gone. They've needed literally every point they've earned to get into the playoffs. Brandon Cambridge doesn't get nurtured at Crown Legacy, comes off the bench, scores a brace against Chicago. Charlotte FC's talking about next year. And a guy like Patrick Agyemang, who scores a late equalizer against Seattle to steal a draw from Sounders. And that was probably one of the most delirious games of the season. And I think that game also proved to kind of be a turning point, because Charlotte, in their home building, it's been very rare for them that they've been such a home dog. There's been a couple of opportunities where they were home underdogs in a matchup, and they look great in that matchup. They looked great last year when they played Philadelphia in the same sense. They beat the defending champions in their home building as well this year with LAFC. And again, I think match congestion for them was very much an issue at the end of the season. You've heard Cherundolo talk about that from their perspective as well. And a couple of other coaches have done that as well. I tried to get Lattanzi to talk about it, but he didn't want to bite on that. So he gave credit to the boys and said, hey, you know what? They're professionals. And that was cool to see, even though, like I said, they played 41, 42 matches this year already. But I do feel like it's something that has come together. I mentioned Urnan's development and addition to the squad. That has helped. I think Malanda, he didn't have a good game on Wednesday, but he's somebody who at 21 years old looks wise beyond his years when he is right. And he looked much better on Saturday. He's somebody who's not afraid to get in there. He's also a very imposing presence. He's like 6'4", and I don't look up to many people. I'm 6'3".
Like Crown Legacy, like 6'4", 6'5". I swear to God,
they got a lot of those guys. They really do. Especially in the back, Joel Guilherme is big. Joao Pedro, both those guys. I mean, they just get and find all those 6'4", 6'5" center backs.
Footers, man.
It's crazy.
They're all the way back there.
And like I said, and Byrne is kind of the same way too as Uranen, where like you might not hear him on the ball a lot, you might not hear his presence, but like his great thing is he knows how to draw a foul and draw contact against an attacker with his back to the attacker. He really is able to do that about as well as anybody that I've seen play for Charlotte FC in the opening 2 years, and the maturation of that back line is something that we've continued to see. And look, you also give credit to the goalkeeper. I would be reticent to not do that because of the 3 big saves that Kalina made near the end. Had back-to-back clean sheets, now 3 out of 4 after the one he had on Saturday. And he's somebody who's playing a lot of his best soccer. And they need him to play a little sweeper keeper, too, at times, which is, I think, something you look at and say he's got to maybe develop a lot more of in his locker. And I'm very happy to see that he's now getting the success after a lot of great hard work.
Jarrett, one more for Willie P.
I wanted to ask you about Lattanzio and his growth this year, because especially when they were managers getting fired left and right this season. Mm-hmm. And I know there were a lot of points dropped, and I'm sure there was a lot of frustration because Charlotte had shown that they could run with a lot of the big dogs, but they were just having trouble finishing the drill. What have you seen in his growth as a manager just this year, going through a lot of adversity?
I know you mentioned the managers being fired left and right, and a lot of Charlotte FC fans, unfortunately, had been kind of wondering, like, when was their opportunity to have that happen. And I'm happy that he has gotten beyond that adversity. And I think there are some things, like I said earlier, that you could look at and say would be attributed to him in terms of sub choice, timing of subs, and overall tactics. I think he was reticent early on to put Enzo and Carroll kind of in the same space. I think that was kind of the biggest mountain he had to climb tactically, because he's somebody who's used to a 4-3-3. And while they make it look like a 4-3-3 on the graphic, with Swiderski kind of playing as an 8, it's really more like a 10/secondary striker, and trying to find that right role for Swiderski was, I think, the biggest thing he had to kind of find. I think those two guys are best when they're playing closer together, but it can't be that for 90 minutes. It's got to be varied in their attack, and you'll see sometimes where Capetti will fan out and let Carroll go straight. There are times where Capetti will play hold-up play in the middle and play with his back to goal and try to nudge Swiderski along. And I do feel like that was kind of the biggest thing that he had to kind of overcome, because there were times earlier in the year where he was putting Swiderski on the wing. That didn't work. There was times in late in games where he tried to put Capetti on the wing. That didn't work. And I think it was more trying to give them the tools and figure out how to find each other. Because I think, too, if you're both those players, you both want to be the dude. Like, Capetti came in basically saying he wants to be the 9, and Swiderski came in here last year saying he wants to be the number 9, doesn't need any help. And I feel like those two have found a way to coexist and make magic together. And I also feel like the other part from Lattanzio is that he's been looking all year very much in the same way that his predecessor looked, to try and find the right combination on the wing. And we just did not have good wing play through the middle part of our season. They added the former Atlanta United man, Justin Merrim, who I think was very good early again, but I think a lot of the match congestion for him was a rough part of trying to keep him fresh. They had some injuries. I think Józwiak, with going down, created a real big hole in terms of where Charlotte FC was looking forward to try and get some speed and tenacity down that right side. Mackenzie Gaines got hurt as well, somebody who has provided a lot of speed off the bench. I think we saw Keowen Vargas shine early, score the goal against Orlando, and then really wasn't heard from until this week, really, with 2 goals he scored against Miami. And that, I think, has been the real great thing to see his development. The Colombian, I really love that he's become somebody who Charlotte FC fans can rally around, because, every time he does that somersault, that backwards vault, is really, really cool to see. And the fact that they now have the ability to put all 3 of those dudes, the 3 DPs, on the field at the same time, Capetti, Swiderski, Józwiak, along with Vargas, has created an attack that I think is diverse. It's not just, hit and hope in the box. They can attack through the middle now with, the combination of Westwood and Bronico, Arfield when he comes off the bench as well. And they have the ability to really be a team now that I feel like can hurt you in multiple different areas, which they weren't like that during the early part of the season.
All right, cut the promo forming for Thunderdome. What are the plans for you and Jess as you guys have your moment of history in the postseason?
So we're on a different station Wednesday than we normally are on our flagship. I think we're working out also whether or not the game will be available across our 3-state network. That's something that's done by people who are not me and above my pay grade. So that's being worked out right now. But I know it,
folks.
I know in Charlotte we'll be on 99.3 and AM 1110 WBT, because the Hornets play that night, their home opener against, ironically enough, Atlanta. So that'll be interesting to have happen across town. But we'll be doing that from New Jersey and giving you all the sights and sounds and trying to make that happen. And also, if those who are Charlotte FC fans want to take in the game in the area, they're doing a watch party up at Camp North End, which is about a mile and a half from the stadium in a brand new developed area. That's actually somebody who has moved to Charlotte after his MLS career. Wasn't a Charlotte FC player, but if you remember Tesho Akindele from Orlando, he has moved to Charlotte. He's become kind of a community advocate. He's helped out at this development Camp North End, which has very much been a project to try and revitalize the northern part of our just right outside of downtown. And they've got a great area. We actually had our kit unveil there last year for the primary kit, and they're going to be hosting the Charlotte FC fans there for the official in Charlotte watch party on Wednesday evening. But looking very forward to it. Our pregame starts at 7 on WBT, and hopefully also across the Charlotte FC network, which is 3 stations wide from Virginia all the way down to South Carolina.
Nice. Will Palaszczuk, play-by-play for Charlotte. Piece of history coming up for Thunderdome for the one-off against Red Bulls coming up in the midweek MLS playoffs. Thanks for dropping in, especially after a very, very busy weekend where you've gotten no sleep Maybe if you just went out to the grill and did some cooking and just kind of killed some time.
There might be some therapeutic smoking on the grill later on tonight. Maybe to just keep my mind off of all the things going on about 62 hours from now.
Who's counting, right? At Willie
Right.
P. Style in the 280 character app. Thanks again, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate you guys as always.
All right.